In this project, I will show you how I designed an advanced dual-channel cooling system that powers both the helmets and the dashboard. We will go through the features, challenges, and final results of this next-level racing upgrade. This video is sponsored by PCBWay. Sim racing has become so realistic today that it can almost match real motorsport. Driving with gloves already add a big step toward immersion, but wearing a helmet takes the experience even closer to what real drivers feel. The problem is that after a few minutes with the helmet, the visor starts to fog up, your temperature rises fast, and it's become harder to breathe and stay focused. I looked into how professional drivers manage this problem, and I found that they rely on dedicated helmet cooling systems to control temperature and prevent fogging. That's what inspired me to create my own version and improve it for sim racing and racing. So, I created a list of targets for this project. 1. I first a single air source input that can power both the helmet and the dashboard. 2. The system must be fully automated, allowing the driver to stay completely focused on racing while the fans adjust their speed and direction based on temperature and humidity inside the cockpit and the helmet. 3. Add sensors to a normal helmet so it can react dynamically with the system. 4. Include an emergency mode that instantly activates if fog starts to form inside the helmet. And finally, adding a small display on the helmet showing real-time temperature and humidity inside the helmet. In Fusion 360, I start sketching a small airflow cage with spherical valve that I plan to motorize later to control the airflow direction. I left 0.1 mm clearance between the valve and the cage to minimize air leakage, but the printing and assembly need to be very precise to avoid any friction. The first problem I ran into was that those fans were simply too weak. They couldn't push enough air through 3 meters tube while still fitting both the helmet and the dashboard. So I dropped the idea and started looking for a stronger solution, something actually used in real motorsport cooling system. This is a Duct fan, a high pressure blower. The airflow and static pressure are extremely strong, and the noise level is surprisingly low, even at full speed. So this is the ideal fan for this project. The only limitation is that it runs on 220V AC, which makes direct control from a microcontroller more complicated. The fan comes with a USB-C speed controller that uses a rotary encoder to adjust the speed. I opened it to inspect the circuitry and figure out if I could interface with it directly. My goal was to bypass the original remote controller and take full control of the fan. This video is sponsored by PCBWay. If you are into electronics or DIY projects, PCBWay gives you everything you need, from PCB manufacturing and assembly to 3D printing, CNC machining, and even sheet metal fabrication. Their prices are good, quality is solid. So if you are building your own custom hardware or want to prototype something for your next project, check out PCBWay, link in the description. Inside the remote I found simple but smart circuits. A rotary encoder in the center, a microcontroller handling all signals, and a full ring of LEDs with their resistors. Let's start from the input, with what the USB-C port is actually supplying. The first thing to mention is that this remote is actually powered by 12V, not 5V like a normal USB device. Manufacturers just use USB cable because they are cheap and easy to replace, but this isn't a real USB port. For me, that's a good sign. It means I only need to identify the signal line that controls the fan. On the multimeter, I can see the voltage changing when I rotate the knob, which is a clear sign that this is the signal pin. In electronics, a signal like this usually represents a control value. The microcontroller reads this changing voltage and converts it into fan speed commands. I brought my laptop, my cables, and the microcontroller. I added an optocoupler to isolate the remote 12V signal from the microcontroller. The USB-C cable originally carried both power and the control signal from the remote. In my setup, I am not using that anymore. Instead, I send my own control signal from the USB32 through an optocoupler directly into the fan's control input. The optocoupler keeps everything isolated. The USB32 stays safe, and I can control the 220-volt fan using only a tiny low voltage signal. The Duct fan now is fully controlled, so it's time to build the actual cooling system. Revopoint sent me their latest 3D scanner to try, with no obligation beyond honest feedback, so I tested it directly in real-world workflow. Right away, the build quality stands out. The body shell is entirely made of carbon fiber, which gives a solid, lightweight, and very professional feel. Technically, it used 30 blue laser crosslines combined with optical tracking, allowing it to capture dense, highly accurate data without relying on markers. This makes scanning faster and far more efficient, especially on complex or detailed parts. The optical tracker handles positioning in real time, keeping scan stable even when working with large components or difficult shapes. Overall, the Revopoint Trackit fit perfectly into a serious DIY and professional workflow. It's easily one of the most accurate and advanced scanners I have used so far. At the center, I added the mass spherical valve, with 2 secondary valves on each side to control the output. 3 servos mounted on top to handle all the valve movements with precision. The center valve diverts airflow between the helmet and the cockpit, while the 2 side valves fine-tune how much air goes to each direction. To get precise rotation of the center valve, I added an angle sensor underneath it, with small magnets attached to the valve. The sensor reads the angle of the magnet as the valve turns by detecting changes in the magnet field. It always knows the exact rotation, allowing the valve to move with perfect precision. For humidity and temperature control, I used this combined sensor, the AHT20, measures temperature and humidity with high accuracy, while the BMP280 tracks air pressure and temperature. When the system detects humidity rising above normal levels, it activates an emergency mode before any fog forms on the visor. The center valve instantly redirects all airflow toward the helmet, and the fan ramps up to maximum speed to reduce humidity as fast as possible. Once conditions return to normal, the system switches back to its regular operation. During normal operation, the side valves regulate the airflow going to each direction, keeping temperature stable on both sides. Once the design is finalized, I prepared everything for printing. I orient the parts for strength, activate the brim for better bed adhesion, and used ironing to achieve a smooth top surface. Every setting is tuned for clean, reliable prints. For printing the large parts of this project, I used the Elegoo Neptune 4 Max. The machine comes pre-assembled, so there are very little setup required. The remaining setup are simple and straightforward when following the included manual. Out of the box, it does require some tuning and manual calibration, but once everything is properly set up, it can deliver good results. Being able to print large parts in one piece make a real difference for strength, alignment. Thanks Elegoo for providing this printer and allowing me to integrate it into my workflow. With all the 3D printed parts were assembled, it was time to bring the project to life by integrating the electronics. To set up everything, I began by preparing the breadboard. For the control unit, I choose an ESP32, which acts as the brain of the project and has enough power to manage all sensors and components. To power the microcontroller and the rest of the electronics, I use a 12-volt DC power adapter, together with step-down module, to safely convert the voltage to 5 volts for the entire system. I added a diode between the 5-volt step-down output and the ESP32 5-volt pin, with the strip facing the microcontroller. This protects the board if the USB and the DC adapter are connected at the same time. 2 capacitors are used on the 5-volt output to keep the power stable and smooth. To safely connect the duct fan, I used a PC817 optocoupler to isolate the 2 voltages. Only 2 wires are needed, the ground and the signal line connected through the optocoupler. To identify the pins of an optocoupler, a small dot marks pin 1, the negative side of the internal LED. Pin 2 is the LED's positive side. Inside this tiny LED shines onto a light-sensitive transistor. When the LED turns on, the transistor reacts, allowing the signal to pass while keeping both voltages completely isolated. The 3 servos are powered directly from the 5-volt output, while the signal wires are connected to separate control pins on the microcontroller. The temperature sensor are powered directly from the ESP32 3-volt pin, and they share the same ground as the rest of the system. Their data line connects to the ESP32, but because they run through a 3-mirror cable, I added a pull-up resistors between the 3-volt line and both the SDA and SCL. Those pull-ups stabilize the I2C signals. Without them, the sensors would not communicate properly. Running the OLED display through a 3-mirror cable is challenging because the I2C signal isn't designed for long distances. To keep the communication stable, I will send 12 volts through the cable and use second step-down converter near the OLED. I have added 2 series resistors near the ESP32 to reduce noises on the SDA and SCL lines, and 2 pull-up resistors near the OLED to bring the signals back to the clean logic levels. A small capacitor is also added for extra smoothing. This OLED display will be placed on top of the helmet, showing real-time data from the sensors. It has a resolution of 128 by 64 pixels, and because each pixel light itself, it delivers very sharp graphics, even on small screen. The temperature probe and the magnetic angle sensor are wired just like the others, sharing the same power and ground, with their signal lines connected directly to the microcontroller. To make the setup compact and practical, it's time to design and produce a custom PCB that recreates the same wiring in clean, optimized layout. In the next video, we will bring this project to life, designing and producing a custom PCB, programming the microcontroller, making the carbon fiber parts, and finally testing the system designed to work in sim racing and real motorsport.